What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. We've got WWE Money in the Bank 2022 coming up this Saturday, not Sunday. Usually hard to remember about that. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Robert E. Felice.
Tony, I'm kind of mad. You said there would be money in the bank, and I keep checking my bank, and you haven't put the money in.
I can only fix America one thing at a time, starting with Peacock. And all the way away from America, we got Callum Wiggins.
Wait, this is on a Saturday?
Yep, this is Saturday.
Oh, God, I've got to watch it then.
Yeah, I know about 4 or 5 people that have forgotten that this was a Saturday over the course of this past week, where it's been like, oh, man, I got to rearrange this or whatever. It just seems like it should be a Sunday one. I don't know why. It's, how...
that SummerSlam is on a Saturday in July.
That's weird, too, yeah. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but outside of the one match that we are not going to talk about here. But Money in the Bank is coming up, and... we're going to give our usual breakdown here. We're going to talk about what is currently advertised for the card. We have some missing elements that we're going to talk about that later on this week. We might have some more information for. We might not. I don't know, because we'll be doing hot tags before SmackDown. So I could imagine that this is probably going to be one of those scenarios where the next round of the hot tags is not going to have the full card breakdown. But then again, hey, I'm from an era where WWE used to announce all the matches before the go-home show of Monday Night Raw. And we're in the era of, we don't know what's happening until midway through the pay-per-view sometimes. So Money in the Bank should be one of the biggest events of the year. And it should be one of the most easily, highly anticipated ones. And I gotta be perfectly honest, I am not feeling it. How are you guys thinking about this?
I think that even though I made that offhanded remark about having to stay up to watch it, I think that this is looking a lot better shape than Hell in a Cell did. In terms of just matches with stakes attached to them, 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches, so that's going to be good. I think it's kind of hard not to have some level of anticipation for this pay-per-view, if not just for the 2 ladder matches. The rest of it I can kind of take or leave, but at least most of the matches should be good. So that's the kind of attitude I'll take going into it.
Yeah, this is always better than something like Hell in a Cell or any given card, because it's Money in the Bank. And this seems like one that, even though the matches have a bit of a foregone conclusion feel, it should still be fun, and the results should lead to the rest of the year and the road to WrestleMania again.
I wish I could be that optimistic about it, but we had a great pay-per-view with Forbidden Door, as far as like great in-ring pay-per-view, and I don't think this is going to match up. And then when it comes to, maybe Forbidden Door doesn't have the strongest build for a lot of those matches, but the in-ring stuff is good. WWE should, theoretically, because they are the sports entertainment company, have the better build, even if they don't have the better matches. And I'm honestly looking at this pay-per-view and I'm thinking, all right, that's filler and it doesn't matter. That's filler and it doesn't matter. That is a foregone conclusion. That match is kind of, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And then it's a 2-match card on top of that. And the 2 matches that are selling this pay-per-view, one of them, it's probably going to suck and maybe not matter. And the other one is guaranteed to not matter. So I'm really I'm feeling down on Money in the Bank. I think that they have completely botched this entire year. And my worst fears are kind of, each passing week, they're kind of being reiterated that they shouldn't have done the title unification, because it completely made 2022, hey, wait until 2023. Money in the Bank this year just doesn't feel like it seems like it's got a purpose to it. I might be wrong. We might be talking about this down the line and going, oh my God, they had these crazy ideas, but you've been burned too many times. What are you supposed to believe? The track record from history, or the potential, hey, it's going to be better with the next event philosophy? I don't have that kind of privilege. But if you do, by all means, drop your comments below. And as we go along here, tell us your thoughts, whether it's good or bad, positive, negative. There's no wrong answer here unless you're, there's wrong answers in the world, but there's no shunning of opinions, I guess I should say. We will, of course, be breaking this down from top to bottom. And as we go along here and we check out your comments as well, make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already and ring that notification bell. That way you know when we go live for the post show and talk about what happened in hindsight after this event on Saturday night. And if you are, doing the normal things that you normally do on YouTube here, there's that like button, there's the share button, there's that join button that gets you access to the members only content. Same thing as the Patreon, patreon.com/SmarkOutMoment. And follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. And of course, if you want to help out on the monetary side of things outside of Patreon, there's a little thanks button too. And TeePublic and Redbubble. Check those things out for some merchandise options. And I guess let's start getting into this with the question that I normally ask here. What's missing from the card outside of the last member of the Money in the Bank men's match? Do you think we're going to get any extra matches, or is it going to be a 6-match show?
First and foremost, they said that the Street Profits would be picking a stipulation. So that's missing from the show.
That's definitely something we need to talk about, yeah.
But outside of that, we could get another match. We could get some Gunther match or some other random grudge match. But I think this is solid. They're kind of getting into a rhythm of kickoff shows without matches, so maybe we keep that going here.
I think that's 100% guarantee. No match is going to happen in the kickoff. I think that they've completely gotten rid of that.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that it stays with just these 6 matches. I don't think it needs any more because the ladder matches will take up a decent chunk of time anyway. And it gives you more capacity to put some more time on the others. And even if you don't have more time, it means the show will be over in about 2 or 3 hours, and I'm totally cool with that being the case. If I was to hazard a guess at anything, I would say there's nothing really that's standing out in terms of matches, because I don't think they're going to put either an Intercontinental title match on, because the Intercontinental title doesn't appear on pay-per-view ever.
Yeah. I don't know why.
I'd say the most likely match we're probably going to see is AJ Styles versus The Miz.
It's those two are two of the ones that stand out to me as far as, you mean to tell me that there's no spot for them? Styles, Miz, of course, somebody like Ciampa who should have a spot in a match like this, because you would want to.
A spot.
No, he just hangs out with The Miz every once in a while, and Finn Balor and Damian Priest, Judgment Day has done fuck all. They really fell off the wayside there. Mustafa Ali, of course, just if he pops up at all, he shows up on main event. So he's gone in that capacity. Plenty, of course, people are, injured or, that's why Cody Rhodes and Edge and all them aren't in here. But why not the Intercontinental Championship? Gunther's got it. You don't have the excuse anymore that you put it on Ricochet for no reason, even though he was the second top babyface of the brand or whatever. It's kind of strange that Madcap Moss isn't on this card after all the pushes they've given him, right?
He cut a promo about Money in the Bank and promptly disappeared.
Yeah.
Really weird.
Because this is the company where the guy who loses the feud gets the big match with the celebrity at SummerSlam.
The losers always win in this company.
It's been the company's failing upwards, so it makes sense.
Yeah. But guys, that reaction that Baron Corbin gets when the crowd is there is just, that's the reason why he always has to be in such a big match.
That's the reason we're going to keep seeing Vince. Well, one of the reasons. By the way, I guess we could talk about that here. Where do you think they're going to add Vince on the card?
I think he's going to actually...
He's the 7th guy in that Money in the Bank match.
I'd be more into that than some of the other things on the card, if that's the case.
He's got to make the alleged settlement money back, doesn't he?
But I don't know if Vince will appear here. I don't think he will, to be honest.
There's absolutely zero track record. Well, I'd say that there's zero indication to say that he wouldn't, based on the last 2 weeks of television. He's literally appearing on every single show that
He's just showing up to show up.
Yeah.
Well, not NXT, not NXT UK, that kind of thing, because
Raw
and SmackDown are the only ones that matter, if they matter at all.
But it would be a case of, even if it's just him coming out at the start of the show saying, "Welcome to Money in the Bank," and then the pyro goes off and then he leaves. I can imagine.
I can imagine that. I can imagine him going, "Hey, here's Theory," but he'll show up. Just to show up.
You think we're getting pyro? I don't.
Pyro at the shows now, don't we?
Depends who the 7th man of that Money in the Bank match is, because if it's who I think it might be,
Cody,
then there's loads of pyro.
Well, we'll definitely give our predictions on who that might be. This setup for SmackDown, at the very least, they haven't announced anything last time I checked, and we are currently missing, all these different people. Of course, one of the main things that we are missing is Roman Reigns, because he doesn't, defend either title anymore, and that is not something I can picture them deciding that they're going to add to the card. I think that that's just a foregone conclusion that he's not going to be appearing unless it's a stadium show or it's a SmackDown episode that matters to them. So I don't think we're going to get him in any capacity, even if it's like backstage talking to the Usos. But I would love to see the Intercontinental title on the line. Maybe start something between him and if you're not put Madcap Moss in the Money in the Bank, have him challenge or something. But we're at a time frame right now where they can't really start anything on SmackDown and have it matter. So it's either going to be complete filler, like, hey, we just decided to add Angel and Umberto against the Viking Raiders or something pointless, or it's going to be, these are your matches and that's the end of it. And in the grand scheme of things, they care so little that the fans care so little now, myself included. I would rather just not have any more matches if it's not going to mean anything. So if you're not going to give me the Intercontinental Championship defended because you remember that the belt exists, okay, fine. Make it a 2-hour pay-per-view. In and out. Just go through faster. I would love it to be the case, but they'll probably add a full hour's worth of video packages to pad that time out.
Video packages and entrances will take up like a good chunk of this show.
Awful. Can't stand it. It was so refreshing watching Forbidden Door and not having video packages, because they just zipped through that. And you know what? My energy level never went down.
Yeah, Forbidden Door was great. Very well paced. And
more about that. Could do a review for Forbidden Door instead.
We could.
Just do another one.
Yeah.
Well, they only got to hear your opinion, Tony. Nobody cares about you. Now we're going to talk.
As far as other predictions go, before we start breaking down the matches that we do know and everything, this is, I guess, unrelated to Money in the Bank, but it is something to predict. So, maybe there's a chance this leads to something. We didn't get the Max Dupree stuff, and they specifically have wasted 2 weeks. So this is another one of those instances where they said, here's a thing, never mind. And maybe this week we get some kind of introduction to somebody, and maybe that leads to some sort of filler match, like Max Dupree brings out Mace or whatever they do, and then they pick a fight with Ricochet, and that's our filler match or something. But right now I'm looking at this and I'm going, all right, they're either going to toss something at random or they're going to rush job this on SmackDown, and we won't know that for the hot tag. So I guess we'll talk about whatever we talk about then. But let's get into the card itself here that we do know. And some of these, obviously this person's going to win type matches are the way that they are. Ronda Rousey defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Natalya. I actually didn't watch this past episode of SmackDown. I was in a situation where I was like, you know what? I'm going to do some other stuff, and I'm going to record it and I'll watch it later. And then I found myself going, I don't think I need to watch it based off of somebody else's breakdown. I checked out what Dallas had written up and I'm like, all right, I think I got the gist of it. I don't think I need to watch it. So I didn't bother to see that Ronda Rousey and Natalya promo. but it looks like it was bad. Was it?
Dude, I brought this up to you guys privately. People are loving this thing they have going on. They're enjoying them just taking what can be perceived as real shots at one another. And I've seen a lot of people that are just all about this Ronda Rousey and Natalya thing.
The Twitter stuff I like.
This was a little bit more of that, because I guess, what did Ronda say to her? Oh, I didn't recognize you without
She
your
said,
tits out or something.
Yeah, she said, I didn't recognize you about your rack out.
Yeah. And
Just like, just taking shots at Natalya and seemingly Jenny as well because of their YouTube channel. And then Natalya responded that on Twitter by putting together a montage of every time that Ronda's had her rack out and photo shoots and stuff like that.
They have done a great job of this, as far as like building it up themselves.
Their Twitter game is strong. I mean, it hurts when they actually have to open their mouth.
That's the bad thing, yeah.
Yeah, if they could just like communicate via tweets throughout their entire promo segment, then that would actually probably be a lot better. But they've added a level of personal nature to it, which feels a bit like, I know they're going at each other's own flaws and personality, but there's supposed to be a kind of a history between these two because Natalya was Ronda's big confidant and friend when she was last in the company, and they haven't really played on that at all in this entire feud. It's been all about how you get your tits out for YouTube views, and then saying, you tapped out in 5 seconds in a UFC fight or whatever. It's like, yeah, all this stuff is cool, and it's, well, I say cool, but it's interesting to see the way they're taking the shots at each other. But why aren't you playing into the canonical story between you two?
Yeah, I don't understand that either, because, correct me if I'm wrong, when Ronda won the Raw Women's Championship from Bliss, she literally said the words, "That was for Jim Neidhart, yeah!" Like, we haven't gotten any of that. We got one thing on WWE Digital from Baszler and Ronda saying, "Hey, I'm always in your corner, but she's my tag partner. I have to stay out of this." That could have been an easy backstage segment that you could have aired on TV so that people, understand.
That would have been a compelling little twist to the whole thing, is Shayna Baszler is stuck between the two of them, and then that can lead to Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler at SummerSlam. Doesn't it kind of write itself?
And maybe that's where we go here, but with what they have chosen to show on TV, we haven't gotten much. But
also, is Shayna still Natalya's tag partner? Because she seems to now be in some sort of weird alliance with Xia Li and Sonya Deville.
Shayna is just existing for some reason right now.
She's just there to lose matches.
Yeah.
Kind of her MO since she came up to the main roster.
I think Doudrop pinned her on Raw. Like, I love Doudrop. Doudrop's great, but Shayna Baszler should have beaten Becky Lynch 2 years ago.
Right.
That's a different story, though.
But they'll do the thing that they normally do, where if we get Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler somewhere in the next few months, they'll be like, hey, remember how great Shayna Baszler was in NXT? Like 5 years ago?
Weren't they doing that? Like, Eva Marie and Nia Jax, weren't their last segments getting the shit kicked out of them by Baszler? And then they just decided, hey, sorry, got nothing for you.
Yeah. I mean, we've gone through all the things all over the place about how WWE doesn't even care. But as far as like Rousey and Natalya goes, I mean, the match will be fine, and Rousey will retain.
This should be as good of a match as Ronda can have, because Natty can work, and Natty knows Ronda well enough to be able to craft something special.
They'll probably really actually put the work in to like plan things out, and yeah, I think it'll be fine. Like, it's not going to be some match of the year candidate, but it'll be good.
I think this match will be as boring and cookie cutter as every single Natalya match has had. Every single match Natalya has had over the past 5 to 10 years. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. It's not because of Ronda. Ronda's actually had some good matches since she's come back with both the match at WrestleMania and at
Backlash.
Backlash with Charlotte were really good matches. I just think that Natalya's going to drag this down because she's not actually that dynamic in the ring anymore. But hopefully she proves me wrong.
And obviously, we are all going around to Rousey retaining because there is 0 chance whatsoever that Natalya wins this title. I mean, I would quite literally bet the house on it if somebody were to take that bet. And then I'd be like, now I got your house. Or however that works. As far as the Raw Women's Championship match, that was supposed to be Bianca Belair against Rhea Ripley. And that match was something I was interested in because I'm a big fan of both. And I thought that maybe there was a little bit more of a chance that Rhea Ripley would win the title, but she is in a situation where she has some sort of concussion injury or whatever. They haven't said because they don't, because why have transparency at all in this company anymore for even like the littlest things, let alone the big things. And instead, she is replaced by Carmella, who is in an unfortunate situation here because I think we can all agree, at least the 3 of us here on this podcast, and probably a lot of the people that are listening, Carmella doesn't get the credit that she deserves, but at the same time, she's still in a position where she's looking like unfortunate filler. Like, Carmella is sound enough, and she has an interesting enough character, and the way that she had said this on like Twitter or whatever it was, she was like, hey, if you give me something, I'm going to try to do my best for it. You know, you tell me I'm going to be a dance break person, I'll try to get it over. You want me to run around for the 24/7 championship, which by the way, wasn't Carmella supposed to be helping R-Truth with that? And they forgot about that as well. Totally forgot about that. She was going to be feuding with Dana Brooke, and then that
fizzled out. Like between Ripley being hurt and Dana said she was in some kind of a car accident this week. I guess that's why they're putting that on the shelf for now.
Well, I mean, that was like 4 weeks ago or something.
Yeah, because Carmella, until that last week's Raw where she won that Fatal 5-Way match, hadn't appeared on TV in 3 or 4 weeks, I think.
Yeah, they're just, again, they go, how about this? And then next week they go, never mind. But she's in a position where she's once again filling in for somebody in a match against Bianca Belair, and it's very much, hey, look, we were trying to give you this, something happened, but Carmella's good enough, right? And that sucks because it's like, Carmella, if she gets built up better, she still wouldn't, let's put it this way, she still would not have any chance of beating Bianca Belair here. And nobody would really necessarily believe it, unless you're just a Carmella stan and then you believe anything with your, you know, people are like, oh, Liv Morgan's going to win every single match in the world and she'll beat, you know, she'll win a 4-hour Iron Man match on the next episode because I'm nuts about her and that kind of thing. But
be nice.
Well, that's what the way people act. People will just be like, now is the time that Mansoor is going to win the title off of Roman Reigns. And you're like, what? You know, but it's a shame because Carmella does deserve more praise than she gets, but she is very much just, who cares about this match right now?
Yeah. You said it well, friend.
Yeah.
Carmella's a perfectly capable, pretty good wrestler. She's a great talker, but they don't do anything to give her an essence of credibility going into these matches. And it does seem that anytime she does have a title match or some sort of significant program, it's because she's substituting for someone who they actually want to push. Whether that is Rhea Ripley this year, whether it was Bayley the year beforehand,
or Sasha Banks.
A month later. It's the most definitive sign of where they see her, which was SummerSlam last year, which they brought her out in the view of deliberately disappointing the fans, so that when Becky Lynch came out, it was an even bigger moment. So they know where she stands. She is again, I'd say an unfortunate situation for the ability that she does have, but she is the disappointing substitute for a show that you're really looking forward to seeing. Like this band couldn't appear, so we got a hokey version of it.
Yeah, I mean,
like a cover version of the band. They'll play all the same music, but you won't be anywhere near as interested in seeing them because they're not the people you came to see.
And of course, the way that pro wrestling should be, and the way that it used to be in the past, for as much as they could, if you needed to change the card, card's always subject to change, but you would try to do something that was equal or better. And since WWE doesn't put in the effort to have that viability anymore, they just go, well, Carmella is a former champion. She's good enough. We just pretend. It's all pretend. And it's all, look, this week we need you to just go with this thing. And there's a YouTube channel that I think is absolutely fantastic called Pitch Meeting, that I'll send things and I'll post things on Facebook and stuff every once in a while. The guy is fantastic at just calling out different movies for things where it'll be like, hey, so you got a new movie for me? And it'll be like, yeah, I figured that we could do another Jurassic Park movie. Oh, haven't we done that a million times? Yeah, but I think we could still squeeze a little bit of money out of that. And it's going to star those characters from the other movies. They have names and things like that. And one of the things he does on that channel that I think is very applicable to WWE is when he'll have the guy doing the pitch meeting thing, and he'll be like, I'm going to need you to get all the way off my back on that one after somebody asks a question. And it'll be like, hey, but wasn't whatever? Hey, shut up. That's his response. Just shut up. So with Carmella, yeah, on paper, Carmella is a former Money in the Bank winner. She cashed that in to win the championship. And theoretically, she could beat Bianca Belair. But we all know that she's not going to. And we all know that if WWE bothered to put out a tier list of their own personal preferences, she would not be on the same tier as Becky Lynch and Charlotte and, that S tier, A tier type talent. Carmella would be in the B and the C tier. And whether you are a big fan of Carmella or not, and you should be a fan because she's great in a lot of different ways, she just doesn't match that same level. So they aren't replacing Rhea Ripley with somebody equal or greater. They're replacing her, period. Which means that they have a tendency every once in a while, I don't think it's going to happen here, but they do have a tendency every once in a while to go, all right, we know that this isn't as good, so what can we do to get people talking about it otherwise? And we've had, 4 or 5? Is it 4 or 5 women's Money in the Bank so far? We had Alexa,
5.
Carmella, Nikki, no, I got my Echo Dot going off. Bailey, and Asuka.
Asuka, yeah.
Yeah, so out of those 5, every single one of them except for Carmella has been cashed in within a day. There is a chance, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a chance that they look at the situation and they go, how do we get people talking and not saying that they're disappointed? What if we have Carmella win and then somebody cashes in on her? I think it's about a 5 or 10% chance, but crazier things have happened. So I'm going full blown Bianca Belair retains, and that's not the case. And they just go, wasn't that a great match? Moving on, and hope that nobody cares because it's Peacock and they already figured you already have the subscription, so they don't give a shit. But do you guys think that there's any chance that we get that surprise cash in?
I think there's a tease that Becky Lynch cashes in on, or attempts to do it like she did last year. Like, I'm doing it again. Screw Carmella. It's going to be me. And then, Bianca gets her before she can cash in. And then they probably have a standard match where Bianca wins. But I do want to throw this out there just because it was Money in the Bank last year. Bailey? Where's Bailey?
It's Bailey, yeah.
I would love for this to be like, ding dong, it's actually going to be me. Just because I'd like to see Bailey back. But Carmella's great. It's just this, like you've said, this is the filler scenario. It's a shame that she and Bianca get put in this scenario so often. But I think the match will be good if they just do a match. But I do think we get a tease of something more, because I do think that WWE still tries to give some kind of decent replacement.
Yeah, Bianca will win. I don't think there's going to be a cash in, regardless of who wins.
Not even a tease?
Nope. I think there could be there could be circumstances where we see Bayley, if she is healthy, or Rhea Ripley attack Bianca after the bell to immediately set in motion the match that will take place at SummerSlam. But yeah, other than that, I think it's just going to be like the straightforward Bianca retains, move on.
Where do you guys think this is going to be placed on the card?
Smack dab in the middle. Like, I think the women's will open. The women's ladder match will open. I think they'll go to the Profits. And then I think we get this match.
Yeah, it'll probably be one of the two middle matches. I could probably, I think that they'll do the Ronda and Natalya match before the main event.
I could see that being the case, yeah. Let's go with another title that I don't think is changing hands whatsoever, but the match should be good. It's the Undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship match between the Usos and the Street Profits, which has a stipulation that we don't know because they had more time in the world to talk about this on Raw and on Raw Talk, and they didn't. So the Street Profits get to pick, unless they forgot, or in case they just decided that they didn't want to have a stipulation anymore. But that's the first question. What do you guys think is going to be the stipulation for this match?
So, first of all, it was on the Fightful Select report that that's what the match was for. And then when they showed the graphic, they had no indication of that. And then Byron Saxton said, this is for that. But they seemed wishy-washy about the whole thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if they just forgot it entirely. But if they do choose a stipulation, I think it'll be 2 out of 3 falls to eat some time on the card.
Remember, this is the same episode of Raw where they said there are 3 spots left in the Money in the Bank, and this is the last chance one for the final spot with 2 remaining. But later on, we're going to have another match that'll determine the final spot, even though it's all completely packed up. Where there's still 1 spot remaining, but the field's been situated. So I'm like, wait, oh my God, they really don't know. So it could very easily just be yes and no. We'll figure it out by the time the bell rings. But Callum, if you think that they have a stipulation in mind, what do you think it might be?
I didn't really know that they did have that stipulation, so so I'm kind of off the cuff here, but it could be anything as lame as Paul Heyman is banned from ringside.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Wait a minute, no! Paul Heyman doesn't go to the ring with them.
It could
They'll
be.
have him,
Like,
you know what they'll do? They'll have him go to the ring with him on Friday just to establish the stipulation.
Well, no, the stipulation will be that Roman Reigns is not allowed in the building whatsoever,
Yeah.
and that's and
Yeah.
so it's the Street Profits' fault that Roman's not here. It's not because he was never going to be here in the first place. I think 2 out of 3 falls does sound like it'll be a good one if they are trying to make it a bit of a longer match. It could potentially be something like a lumberjack match would make sense as well, just because they've got people probably backstage that they could use, get them on the show, could surround it with like a few other tag teams, and that could be a way of trying to contest with the Usos, like their more heelish tactics. But I don't know. I think either way, it doesn't really matter what the stipulation is.
Well, we know it's not going to be last man standing. First off, because that doesn't really work in a tag team environment. And second, we are going to get a last man standing match between Brock and Roman, so why bother to do it here? It's not going to be a ladder match. That'd be really weird if they decided to do that. It'd be fun. I'd be down for it, but I don't think we're going to add another ladder match. I think we can...
You never know.
We can pretty safely say that it's probably not going to be a cage match because that would be weird to set that up too. So, despite the fact that it doesn't seem like it would need this, I think they're going to go straight up just regular street fight. It's just no DQ. And that way they can have the Usos do something shady to win.
Just to play around a little bit here, do a stipulation where Sami Zayn is in a shark cage, right? And then do this match before the main event, and then have when the men's ladder match is getting started, that Sami is trying to reach the briefcase because he's already in the air, and he's just to do something silly, like that would be fun.
You don't think that they would have the cage just at the stage like they've done before?
Nah, I think it should be absolutely suspended and near the briefcases so Sami Zayn can try to reach it.
Are we going with silly stipulations? Well, we can definitely pull out some there. How about it's a tornado tag match, but it's essentially a three-legged match where both the Street Profits are tied together by their legs and arms, and the same with the Usos. So essentially, it's a singles match, but there's two guys attached to each other instead. So it's like a three-legged race, but a wrestling match instead.
To do it even better, you tie the legs, so it's 3 legs, but then you have each person take their non-dominant hand and tie that behind their back. So that way you have to use okay, you've got your left hand and my right hand, and that's how we have to work that out, and you blindfold them.
And then, while they're blindfolded, you confuse them and you switch the two partners with each other. So actually it's one Street Profit and one Uso versus one Street Profit and one Uso.
Yes.
And it's a strap match.
Yeah. And it's 2 out of 3 falls.
Oh, well, I mean, isn't that obvious?
Yeah.
False count. It's false count anywhere, too.
Twice.
What's even funny is because they're blindfolded, they don't realise that the title belt is hanging and they need a ladder to pick it up. They just start having an actual wrestling match. And it can never end because they never realise that there's a title belt hanging up there.
It's also somehow a beat the clock challenge, even though there's not another match.
And they must put one person through a table in order to climb the ladder in the first place.
There you go. This sounds like something that they would have an impact. I'm just assuming this is another match where Street Profits have a good fight and the Usos retain.
Yeah, by the way, the Usos have that Roman Reigns rub of they can't fucking lose.
Yeah. So just wait until WrestleMania. Any chance you think that they drop the belts, Callum?
No.
Isn't that what's another thing that's so sad about the way that this whole skip 2022 is going? Because it's like, all right, well, tag titles are going nowhere. World titles are going nowhere. Women's titles are going nowhere unless it's Bianca Belair losing. So that's the only one to pay any attention to.
I mean, you say skipped 2022, you skipped most of 2020 and 2021 in regards to Roman Reigns and his title belt as well. It's like, we're putting this title on the Roman and he's not dropping it until he faces The Rock. Whenever we get The Rock, that's when it may happen.
But at least Roman wrestled every pay-per-view last year.
At least we had another world title that we could have something with, too.
That's true, too.
Yeah, and the Usos are defending the title on basically every pay-per-view. What's the problem there?
The problem there is
shit. WWE.
It's the same issue with Roman. I don't care that Roman was wrestling on every single show if it means that there's absolutely zero jeopardy of him losing the title.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the issue. It's a big issue with a lot of not just WWE but a lot of wrestling shows in general. Is that it seems like it's so obvious the results of a lot of matches, and this show in particular has got 3 of the title matches at the very least are so blindingly obvious who the winner is going to be that I don't want them to switch one of the results just for the sake of shock value, but I'd like them to build up challenges with a bit more credibility.
Ideally, yeah,
that's all. Rather than just saying, we'll have the Street Profits because they're kind of the only other over tag team that we have at the moment until we decide to go right back to the Usos versus the New Day.
I'm already ready for it.
Yeah, for the it's basically the feud that appears at least 1 or 2 matches pretty much every year since about 2013.
Yeah, I mean they are the best tag teams, so I can see that. But still, it's going back to the well a million times. Now, the title that I do think that there is a chance that it could change hands, although I'm still leaning towards it not, is the United States title, because that's on the line between Theory and Bobby Lashley. And it's all one of those situations, I feel, where it's all going to make sense in hindsight, but we won't, of course, know, because that's the whole point of hindsight, until next Monday. John Cena is quote-unquote back. They had him show up, but he cut a promo, and that was it. So they didn't really set anything up with Theory other than Theory backstage wanting to get a selfie and Cena leaving. but you got to assume we're getting Theory versus Cena at SummerSlam. You don't think so?
Not assuming shit until they tell me. They made it a point to say Cena don't know when he's wrestling, and I believe him. And I refuse to get my hopes up.
Well, if he does have a match with Theory, this is the kind of nebulous situation that we're in right now. John Cena is not going to win the United States title unless they literally plan on him just being like, hey, look at that. Isn't it interesting? He's the United States champion, and then he forfeits it or something. Just, swerve for the sake of it sort of deal. But then that would mean Theory either has to, if he has a match with Cena at SummerSlam, Theory either has to not have the title on the line, which is disappointing, and it completely forecasts that Cena wins. And really, why do you justify it that way? Oh, but I'm not going to defend the title. Boo. And then they go, shut up and deal with it. You're getting a John Cena. Another one of those, hey, shut up type moments. Or Theory has to drop the United States title so that way he doesn't lose it to John Cena. Because he's not beating John Cena. And if he drops it, he might as well drop it to Lashley. But if he drops it to Lashley, that means that Lashley is either going to not hold that United States title super long, or he's going to be holding that United States title when he eventually needs to fight Roman Reigns. Because we're getting Lashley Reigns at some point.
We're not.
You don't think we're going to get it at all before WrestleMania?
Maybe in 2023 early, but we ain't getting it this year, I don't think.
That's where I'm getting at, though. Eventually, we're going to get it before WrestleMania, and I don't think he's going to be holding that United States title when that happens. They could, of course, do, it's title versus title or something stupid and have Roman Reigns have all three titles, but I'm kind of thinking that they might hot potato this. They might have Theory lose it to Bobby Lashley, fight John Cena, lose to John Cena, and then beat Bobby Lashley and win the title back, just to stretch it out for 3 months and have it go back to the way that it was before. Would not shock me whatsoever.
I think you're putting too much thought into it, but I do think Lashley wins because it's a good prize for him, and he does better when he's fighting for a prize.
Oh, I'm still sticking with Theory retaining, but this is an option I could see happening.
I think it's smarter to go with Lashley right now because he can give people on the roster other things to do, because it seems like Theory is going to be obsessed with Cena for a while, regardless of when that match actually takes place. I feel like Lashley having the belt will give other people something to fight for. He can fight, Veer or Miz or AJ or whatever, but like it gives other people something to do on Raw. And I think also you can start looking towards Lashley and Gunther at Survivor Series.
You guys are forgetting what might be behind door number 3, which is Bobby Lashley wins, but it's by DQ or count out.
I don't like door number 3.
I know. No one likes door number 3. That is the forbidden door.
Well, I would imagine if they go with the whole Theory retains thing, they'll do it with him cheating to actually win. But it could be a DQ or whatever, just because they don't care, and that still accomplishes the same thing of Theory retaining. But you might as well have him get a pin and start a feud with somebody else or whatever,
That's true, but I think that I'm going to go with Lashley winning because I can either get it through the DQ result or I can have it by him winning the title, which seems to make more sense. I think that I'm on the fence about whether we're going to see Theory versus Cena at SummerSlam. If it does happen, then I'm completely not on the fence in terms of the fact that Cena definitely should win that match. And I agree with you that if Cena does face Theory, it shouldn't be for the United States title. So Theory either doesn't have to have that belt. I guess it can be for the United States title, and that's where you do the DQ finish.
No, it's not like the Stop it.
It's going to happen one way or the other. Like, Theory has the match with Cena, has DQ finish, but then Cena hits him with the AA, and everyone gets to go home happy, even though he didn't win the belt. So, the old Lex Luger. But
there's also a chance they do all 4 options here.
Oh, yeah.
Where they end up having Theory retains the title, but he loses by DQ at this pay-per-view. And then on Monday night, or on a Monday afternoon, they go, hey, tonight on Monday Night Raw, we're going to get a Money in the Bank rematch. Theory is going to have to defend the United States title against Bobby Lashley again because of the way that things went down. And Adam Pearce will just be like, it's official that you are not going to get away with it that easily. And then Bobby Lashley wins the United States title on Raw. So that way they get John Cena interfere and cost Theory the title. And then that sets up the match for SummerSlam. And then they have the match. Theory loses that. And he's lost 3 matches in a row. And then they go, hey, how do we undo the whole Theory losing these matches? I know. He wins the title back from Lashley.
Yeah, I don't want to put too much thought into it because at the end of the day, it's just the United States title.
I mean, and at the end of the day, the last time we did this, Tony, we were sitting there going, and I know exactly how Lashley can get to Roman, and then they just brought back Brock, so fuck it.
So yeah, I just think that Lashley will get the victory, and he might hold the title for a while, because I agree with Rob, we're not going to see Lashley against Roman at least until after Clash of the Castle, which means he can get a few month reign with the title belt anyway. Whether it goes back to Theory or goes to someone else, you might as well just have the title on Lashley. Seems like a bigger deal, and also they have way too many heels as champions right now.
And I'll make it clear, I don't think we see Lashley versus Roman unless Roman needs an opponent for the Rumble, because we still haven't done what I think they'll do. Or it's all right, day 1. I think it's in January. If you think I'm in January, then we're not seeing Lashley Roman.
I mean, Royal Rumble day 1, those seem to be the most likely options, unless they figure something out for Survivor Series, because I'm very much assuming Survivor Series is just Roman's not on the card. Isn't that kind of stupid? I think he's going to have that Clash at the Castle thing, and he's going to fight at Crown Jewel, and then they're going to say, you have November and December off. But at least for now, I mean, I might change my opinion when we do our final, hey, what are your last picks before the pay-per-view thing? Right now, I'm going to just go and be the alternative. I'm going to say Theory retains. I don't know why.
I say Lashley wins the belt.
I say Lashley wins one way or another.
So let's talk about the Money in the Bank matches themselves. The ladder matches, I should say, because these are all Money in the Bank matches. Women's Money in the Bank is actually a full field. It is what I have written down on the website right now as, I can tell you 6 people it won't be out of the 7. One of these things is not like the other. Our current lineup, unless they change it, is Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Becky Lynch, Lacey Evans, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, and Shotzi. Now, one by one here. Let's just go in reverse order. Shotzi.
That's mean.
She, well, I mean, the likelihood that she is going to win this is bare minimum. Shotzi has been completely botched by WWE. She had an interesting kind of thing going on in NXT. She was interesting and Evolve before they signed her, and they do not care about her whatsoever. They took the tank away. They took her personality away. They made her just the filler heel enhancement talent, and I'm really curious why she's even in this match.
Because she's going to jump, Tony.
Doesn't she have a bad back?
It's pay-per-view.
Doesn't matter. It's pay-per-views don't matter anymore.
You can't tell that to someone who grew up watching them. Like, she probably did.
Yeah, she sees this as a big match, and so she's going to do something crazy in the hope that she gets noticed, and then when she doesn't, we'll just see.
But hey, if she doesn't, then we'll worry about the bad back.
Yeah, I think if you disagree with me, of course, let me know. I think we all probably agree Shotzi has the least chance of winning.
Least chance, but I wouldn't count it out completely.
I would personally say the next least likely to win is Asuka.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she'll win.
I do think she could play. If anybody's going to cost the person that we all think is going to win, which is Becky Lynch, the match, it's Asuka.
Just to keep that feud going, maybe. But I do think that Asuka is playing the highest stakes, but not going to win kind of role that we've seen in this match before, where, yeah, she's a former multi-time champion. She's won Money in the Bank before. And theoretically, if you're, you know, a 6-year-old kid, you're going to be like, oh my God, Asuka could easily win. What are you talking about? But she just isn't going to. Just fundamentally, she's not. There's
Right.
more interesting things that they could do with other people, and they just care about other people more too. So I think the next lowest that I would rank would probably be something that maybe people would disagree with, but I would think the next least likely would be Alexa Bliss.
You never count out Bliss. Ever.
I'd say Bliss is more likely than Seth than a couple of other people.
She's on a similar wavelength to me as Liv and Lacey, where the three of them are all kind of hovering the same sort of spot, but I would just to, bury the lead a little bit. I think Becky Lynch is going to win this. I think Raquel is the number 2 option, and I think the other 3 are kind of all hovering the C tier.
I think if it's my tier rankings for this, it's Shotzi lowest, then Asuka, then I'd say it's Raquel, then Lacey, then Alexa, then Liv, then Becky.
Underdog Liv, bumping her up higher.
It's not underdog. It's like it's one of those circumstances where everyone, well, I say everyone, well, a particular fan base in general, but there is a groundswell of support behind. We need to give Liv Morgan something. Like she's been doing this too long, and she's been kind of in this nearly position for so much of her entire career that we actually have to give her something. Otherwise, what is the point of anything? And I don't think they will give it to her. I think that Becky is the outright like if it's not even a point of like saying Shotzi has a 1% chance and Asuka has a 2% chance. It's kind of like I think Becky is pretty much she's got more than a 50% chance in my mind of winning this. And I would put all my eggs in that basket, but I think that Liv is the next highest one just because it will give them that kind of feel-good moment. In the same way that for a lot of fans, it was when Big E won the briefcase. It's like, okay, finally, like they've got the win, they've got their due, and now we can potentially see them win a world championship down the line. I think for a lot of fans, that's how they see the Liv situation as well.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'll just say I think Liv is probably my number 3, with Becky, of course, being number 1, and right now I have Lacey at number 2. But I think that they all have a decent shot of winning.
I mean, we all think Becky's going to win. Becky is going to win, most likely. And that'll lead into like a Ronda Rousey thing or whatever, or she'll take the title off of Bianca. Becky is far and above the biggest deal out of this match. But before we get into what if we think she's going to win the title and blah, 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 you got Lacey at number 2. What is it about Lacey that you think has her as the backup option?
Not kidding when I say this. Because first of all, they've shown through the years that they like Lacey. She's main evented pay-per-views. But also, 4th of July weekend.
Huh.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
So I think they could easily go, hey, Asuka cost Becky the match, or Bliss cost Becky the match like she did the last time Becky was in Money in the Bank, because they made that a thing to say. And Lacey Evans wins.
What do you think that the fallout would be with Lacey? Like, would she cash in? When would she cash in? How's it going to go down?
I think she'd probably cash in on the Raw champion, because assuming Ronda is just Ronda and stays champion, and I think they'll do it when they need to get a jail free card, and they happen to need one this Saturday, but I don't think they'll do it that quickly if it's Lacey Evans.
So here's my argument for Raquel, since we're all kind of in disagreement about who the number 2 is. This is, we have 7 people in this match. 2 of them are heels. Shotzi and Becky. So again, one of these things is not like the other. Becky Lynch is far and above the option that is most likely to fight Bianca Belair and or Ronda Rousey. Shotzi, no chance whatsoever. If somebody were to win this as a babyface and turn heel and cash in on either one of those 2 babyface champions, I think Raquel is the one that makes the most sense, specifically for beating Bianca. The argument I can see being maybe tossed around in WWE is, and I wouldn't book this, so for anybody that's going to go, it's a terrible idea, why would you want to do that? I'm not saying I want it. I'm saying there's the chance that they could be saying this. Bianca went into WrestleMania challenging the past 2 years and won those titles. She is fantastic, and Bianca, by all means, should be this like multi-time champion going forward, and she should always be in the title hunt, I think. I don't think she's going to be this year. And I could see a scenario happening where when they switch everybody around, Ronda's staying on SmackDown. Becky is going to go to SmackDown. And they're going to do Becky versus Ronda. So you swap out, hey, Seth Rollins goes because he's with Becky, and all the, the chips start falling or whatever. One of the things that would need to switch is Charlotte Flair would need to go to Raw. And if you've got Charlotte and you've got Bianca at WrestleMania, that's easily
one women's match that can sell itself without a belt.
It's easy that can happen, and they can just do, heel Charlotte Flair against Bianca Belair, and Charlotte wins the Royal Rumble or whatever the fuck they want to do. I don't know. But I could also see a scenario where Raquel is the one who beats Bianca, and they have Raquel turn heel. She's tall. They've had her as a heel champion before. And that's what they build is Raquel versus Charlotte instead, and Bianca is not in the title picture. And they try to make Charlotte a babyface. I don't think it'll work. Again, this isn't what I would do, but I can see that being on the table. And unless they give it to Becky, Raquel's the one that makes the most sense to me. She's the only one I could see beating Bianca Belair.
Here's why I don't think it's Raquel right now. She's done nothing but be the happy girl that's here. I think she's here to kind of throw some people around, throw them through ladders. She's here to play that role like a Kane in the Money in the Bank, because she hasn't established herself as like, okay, cool, she's a threat. And as stupid as that is to say, because Raquel Gonzalez in NXT was fantastic, it's completely stripped away, so I think we're starting from scratch.
Overall, I do agree. I think that Raquel's going to be here to pick people up and toss them around and not win, because Becky's going to. But I could see a scenario where they're like, oh my God, look at that, Raquel won, and like she's going to be the smiley Money in the Bank person going forward until we figure out when we want to have her cash in. But I am going Becky Lynch, because Becky Lynch is going to win this. Come on.
I'm going, not only is Becky Lynch going to win, I think Becky, regardless, this results in the further merging of belts. And I think that by the time we get to Mania, there's one women's championship. And I think Ronda and Becky are fighting for one title.
So you think it's going to be Becky beats Bianca somewhere down the line? Or, I mean, she wins the Raw Women's title, and it's like Raw Women's title versus SmackDown Women's title.
Well, maybe she doesn't beat Bianca, because I think Becky's also turning babyface. Because by the time we get to Mania, it has to be the man level Becky versus Ronda Rousey, who can be a heel.
You don't think they're just flipping the script and trying to make it Ronda is a babyface this time?
I think if they wanted to do that, they would have ran it this year.
What are your thoughts on this, Callum?
that Becky's going to win.
I mean, this whole, title versus title or Rousey situation, or
I don't want to put that far ahead. It's like they don't know what's happening that far ahead. So why should I bother?
Or are you looking at this more of they're giving it to Becky because it's Becky and then they'll figure it out later?
I think they're giving it to Becky because Becky needs something to do in the meantime, and I think that she'll have some very interesting and good character moments with the briefcase. I do agree with Rob that I think that the long term is to turn her babyface because she won that 6-pack challenge and she was getting cheered very, very significantly over basically everyone else in that match. Like she is, it's one of those situations that they've had in the past, especially with Becky Lynch, in that she's a heel, but she's so charismatic and so impressive both in the ring and on the microphone that the crowd is going to turn her babyface again. And for that reason, they probably should try and keep her away from Bianca because she will overshadow Bianca pretty soon. I would like, if this would happen, I've heard the suggestion about it, so I kind of like the idea of Becky wins the briefcase, attempts to cash in on Bianca at SummerSlam, and Bianca beats her in 20 seconds. To mirror what happened at SummerSlam last year.
I'm really hoping Money in the Bank isn't a complete waste this year. I want the women to accomplish something.
That's not a waste, though. That's a story beat. That's a continuation of their story.
See, I look at that as a waste. I think Money in the Bank, if you don't have a cash in that
no
results in a title change. Well, that's right.
Yeah, and I think you need to have cash-ins that fail. I'm not saying that every single one that they've done, the failure they've done in the past is worthwhile because it hasn't worked out for certain people's careers, especially. But I think that sometimes you need to have that jeopardy of someone losing the cash-in and as long as it's like furthers the champion or it further feeds into Becky essentially going insane about the fact that she can't win the title back, this could then lead to Becky being drafted on SmackDown and just focusing all her energy in destroying Ronda Rousey and getting the title belt back. So, yeah, as long as I don't think that a cash-in or a Money in the Bank briefcase needs to result in a title switch to be relevant as long as it leads to character progression or development.
I will say Becky is one woman who's at John Cena level who can use the briefcase as a story beat and fail and still be rock solid. She's not like, it's not like Sandow where it was like, okay, this is make or break, So they could, and I don't hate that idea. But I definitely think wherever this goes, it's Becky babyface by WrestleMania.
Yeah, and I mean, just look at last year in particular with when Big E cashed in and won the title. That title win was a moment, but the reign itself didn't mean anything. So realistically, Big E's cash in was completely his Money in the Bank briefcase win, and Money in the Bank last year for the men's was completely wasted, even though it resulted in Big E becoming champion. So there are multiple ways to look at it.
Well, I think that the men's is going to be complete and utter waste. And right now, we don't know who the final entrant is because they just had a weird situation with Roman Reigns, not with Roman Reigns, where Kevin Owens and Ezekiel or Elrod or whatever. Did we get any kind of confirmation about what was happening with Kevin Owens there? It just seems that it was a COVID thing, right?
No, he hates Texas.
So he was supposed to, I guess, be the last person because if not, they would have just done something else. And
you don't think that it's just going to be Ezekiel, Elrod, Elias?
I think if they would have done that, they would have just inserted him in there. I don't know.
Honestly, I think if they're really going to go with one of those two, maybe that's a match that we see get added to the card.
Just like a kickoff, the final spot.
Yep. But I don't think they will because, honestly, that story is so silly. I think I think the reason they're doing this, honestly, is so that Cody can potentially be the last spot. Because why else would they have done any of that? They didn't need to show him on Raw to do nothing.
You're thinking Cody. Callum was saying about some pyro and everything. Who do you think is going to be the final person?
It's hard to say until SmackDown passes because
they could just add Madcap.
They could easily just do versus EQ on SmackDown because the brand split doesn't matter anymore.
Or like they could add Baron Corbin so McAfee can push him off a ladder.
That's where I'm leaning.
Yeah. So after Friday, if they still haven't come up with the seventh person, then it will be Cody. Almost certainly be Cody because they won't just come up with some. There's nobody else around that because they've already had Brock return, so they can't just have any random person turn up unless it's Cena, and that would be bizarre if he just because he would. It's not fitting in his character to like sneak up at the last minute and join a match. He would like make himself aware from the get go.
Well, you can't see him.
It'd be quite weird when the briefcase comes down and no one's holding it. But I don't know. I think that if we get the seventh person qualified in some kind of match on SmackDown, then obviously that's obvious who the seventh person might not be. But if we don't know by Saturday, then I'm pretty sure they're going to get Cody out there just to climb a ladder and take a briefcase down.
See, I'm thinking even though they called the last thing the last chance battle royal, and then they went back and forth so many different times about that's the final person, but there's one spot left, but there's two spots left, but it's not that, and they really are just as much like a disjointed as it could possibly be. I think we're just going to get something as simple as another last chance battle royal added to SmackDown, and it's either going to be McAfee costs Corbin that, and Madcap Moss gets in there, or Corbin wins that, and then McAfee can screw him over at Money in the Bank. I don't think we're going to get anything other than either those two or the Kevin Owens and Ezekiel match, because maybe they just push that on SmackDown. It would shock me if this was ended up being like, okay, and then we're going to add, I don't know, Kofi Kingston to it. Be like, what? Be great. Kofi's awesome, but I don't think that that's happening. I think that their plans for Money in the Bank, if they had any plans whatsoever, at the beginning of this year before they had Cody, I think that they had quite literally absolute zero plans. When they got Cody, I think that they said, we'll give it to Cody and then he can cash in the future and we'll figure that out. Once Cody goes down, I honestly don't think that they still have a plan. I think they're going to figure out who wins Money in the Bank on the day. And then I think even when they go with whoever wins Money in the Bank, I don't think that they're going to have a plan going forward of what they're going to do with that person. I see a lot of people that are putting it out there. Oh, Seth Rollins is going to win, and then that means he's going to cash in, and then he's going to be the champion, and Cody could beat him at WrestleMania. I have zero faith that they actually have a plan for this. And they could very easily go with Drew McIntyre wins, and he just says, I am officially challenging you for Clash at the Castle, and completely waste it that way.
So this is becoming a theme on this podcast where I feel like I have to constantly yank you back off a ledge. I think that they know where they're going. I think they absolutely know where they're going because I think if, let's just say it is Baron Corbin and they have the seventh, it's Rollins. It's absolutely Seth Rollins. And furthermore, the whole build to SummerSlam can be, hey, remember what happened last time? You fought Roman and Brock and I had a briefcase? They're just going to tie it all in.
I do think that that's most likely what they're going to do, but my God, I can't picture Rollins actually cashing in and winning it.
Really? I can quite easily.
No, I think if they do that, they're going to pull the trigger, he's going to cash in, and Roman's going to retain anyway. And it's going to be just a gotcha.
I could totally see a scenario where Seth wins this match if it turns out that Cody isn't the other guy in it, and I think if he does do the thing at SummerSlam and gets involved in that match, it won't be a quote unquote real cash in. It'll be a interrupted cash in attempt, maybe even by Cody himself. Like say he turns up and he just hits that obviously doesn't do anything super physical. I don't know, hits him in the back of the head with the briefcase, and so Rollins is incapacitated, and he has to wait until a later date. I can totally see Rollins beating Reigns for the title, because if Reigns and Rock is happening at WrestleMania, that match should not be for the championship. It just should not be. There is absolutely zero need to make that a title match.
Yeah,
And you have completely built up this really good rematch that you can do between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins by having Seth win the briefcase and then eventually win the title. Cody wins the Royal Rumble, and then you're off to the races. There's absolutely zero need. You can even tell that story if you're that desperate that Roman needs to have a title going into WrestleMania. Just have Seth beaten for the WWE Championship. Roman keeps the Universal title. Seth takes the WWE title, with the argument being, and I'm kind of stealing this from SRS because I know he made this suggestion, he just takes the WWE Championship because he knows that's the title belt that Cody wants more than anything else. So he specifically took the WWE Championship because he's going to make sure that Cody never gets hold of this title as long as he's got his hands on it. And so, yeah, and then you just got a built-in story there for WrestleMania.
See, that's what everybody keeps talking about. And that's the thing that I would argue and would be fully on board with for years. But remember, I was the guy that was saying Goldberg versus Brock at WrestleMania doesn't need to have the title. And Brock versus Roman at this thing doesn't need to have the title. And you don't need to have the title here, and you don't need to have the title there. And every single chance that they get where it ends up being, you don't need the title, why don't you put it on somebody else? Then that way you can have two matches that matter. They always put the title on the thing that doesn't matter. We got a title unification this year, and it didn't need to be. It could have very easily just been one of the championships, and then we could have had the WWE title against somebody else. And they decided, nope, all eggs in one basket. So I have zero faith at this point that they're not going to have both titles on the line with The Rock and Roman, because that's the bigger match. So as much as I would love to still be optimistic that they don't do that, they've burned me way too many times. They're going to keep that belt on Roman. They're going to keep both the belts on Roman, I should say. Because even though there are ways to get around it, they do not care. They are very much like, no, it means more if we've got it all on one guy. So I think it's just Rollins either wins and he fails to cash in, or McIntyre wins and he cashes in to say, I want you to defend the title at Clash at the Castle, and then he fails, so it ends up being a fail.
To be clear, we're not all jumping off the cliff here. Even if McIntyre wins, which I think would be so silly and dumb, McIntyre's beating Roman at Clash at the Castle if they don't do this thing with Rollins.
You think he's winning? No, I think he loses because you're in the UK and Roman will potentially, quote unquote, get booed, and that's just to get people to sit in the seats.
In fact, I could see a scenario where you can build more TV by having Rollins cash in on McIntyre and say, I ruined your moment, haha, fuck you. If you wanted to do that. There are options here. It's not like this isn't one of those scenarios where it's completely void of anything. There's a lot of options here. I just think it all hinges on Rollins being the man with the briefcase. And I'll say it again, just because so we're clear here. He can absolutely pin Roman Reigns. There's nothing stopping Rollins from pinning Roman Reigns.
Creative.
Hell, Callum mentioned taking something from SRS. I'll take this one from SRS, because I said, either way, Last Man Standing is ending with a double knockout. Rollins could just cash in, say it's a three-way now. He's the only one standing. I win.
That'd be fantastic. I would love to see that happen. No, I think that this is kind of, it's too good to hope for. I guess I should put it that way. I don't want to get my hopes up and have it be disappointed.
Listen, that is totally understandable based on the track record, but you also have to preface it with the slight the slight hope or slight understanding that occasionally this company does get things right and does do things that are good and does do stuff that is interesting and things that we do look at back and say, hey, that was a really good match or moment or glad they did that. But again, they're fewer and far between pretty much with every passing year. But and again, just the fact that this is almost obviously from our perspective, there's a slam dunk story that they can tell now because of the circumstances that have fallen their way. And that's at the end of the day, you look at the match at Hell in a Cell between Cody and Seth, and like, to be fair, the circumstances surrounding Cody, as terrible as they are in terms of his injury and his health and just the long-term repercussions of that, it led to a match of the year contender and hopefully the groundwork for an even bigger long-term story. So, as I say, you're totally understandable in your position of not going to believe it until you see it. And again, I think there is a very good chance that they completely fuck this up because this is kind of what they do. This is kind of their forte.
Yeah.
Fucking something up when it's completely impossible to fuck it up. But I'd rather take the position of let's have Seth win this and then see where we go from there. Then hopefully it'll be good. At the end of the day, I won't be watching, apart from the pay-per-view. So it doesn't really affect me one way or the other.
For anybody who says that I'm just like I hate everything or something, because I know some people are going to think that, I want this to be great. I want there to be, go back to previous podcasts. I want them to split the championships and for Cody to win the WWE title and for Roman to hold the Universal title. And like, if you give me the opportunity to book creative, so many other things would be different and all that. But even to use the phrase, even a broken clock is right 2 times a day. I'm still going to get a new clock because it's fucking broken for every other time. You know what I mean? So even if they get one thing right with this, I will be completely and utterly shocked. And Boy Who Cried Wolf, I think that they are going to completely and utterly waste the Money in the Bank. And ultimately, we're going to look back on this in a month or two, and we're going to say, wow, that didn't matter whatsoever. And I'm going to go with Seth Rollins winning here. I would say the least likely option is Sheamus. And then the next least likely option is Omos, and they're kind of 50-50 between the two of them. But I would love them to do that Sami Zayn thing that I had mentioned before. If he's the one that fails to cash in, and he's just, too intimidated to cash in against the Bloodline, I think that if they give it to Riddle, they're going to just go, hey, I want another match. And then they just have a match, and that's the end of that. But the McIntyre thing is a very strong option of them just going, Clash at the Castle, there you go. I think it's going to go to Rollins. I think he's going to fail the cash in at SummerSlam. And then they're just going to go, all right, we don't have to worry about it anymore. That's my ultimate pick.
Rollins, and I think Rollins cashes in before Survivor Series.
Yeah, I'd say Rollins wins, and my hope is that he's world champion by the end of the year.
So, of course, there might be some more matches added to the card. We know at least one person should be added to the card for the men's Money in the Bank match, and we don't know what's going to happen yet, but if anything changes in the meantime before the hot tags, we will address those Friday afternoon, and then when SmackDown happens and they adjust anything that they plan on doing on SmackDown, you will see updates on smarkoutmoment.com. I will have plenty of articles written up. I already wrote up everything outside of what we don't know for my final picks on Bleacher Report. But I know I'm going to have another thing up for wrestling news, and I'll be updating the Smark Out Moment page here and there, and I might tweet out some stuff or whatever. But we will reconvene and give our final picks before the pay-per-view to factor that into the Fantasy League. And maybe we'll post something on like the Mega Maniacs or whatever of like, all right, these are our picks, so that way people know or something. I don't know. Maybe we should start doing that. Maybe think about that, Callum. Have like, these are the picks that we're picking prior to the event. Post that on Mega Maniacs so people are invested. I don't know. Maybe.
I
think people would enjoy that.
I think I kind of when I first started doing the Fantasy League, the Fantasy League resumed a couple of years ago. I would do weekly updates, but they didn't really get a lot of traction, so I stopped doing them. People don't seem to have noticed too much. So
the monthly update might be nice.
Yeah, maybe every now and again.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to do it, Rob? More than welcome for you to. You can give them the monthly updates. Like I'm already keeping track of what was it, 200 plus superstars every single week.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want your job, pal. Like that.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Give me more work to do. I'm totally fine.
No, I mean, at the very least, we could say, look, the pay-per-view is about to start. These are our final picks that we are factoring in, and this is our prediction for the time frame for the end of the thing, or something. I don't know. We'll see. We got a couple days.
Yeah, we could totally do that. The only wrinkle in that is that I'm only watch like half the pay-per-views live, so someone else has to take care of that. But yeah, we'll give some indication of what way we're going, one way or the other. We can do that for Money in the Bank at the very least, and see if people take notice.
But we will have that up on the Mega Maniacs to the discussion thread. So if you are not over on the Facebook group, go to facebook.com/group/the Mega Maniacs, join that and join in the discussion. Drop your comments below, put stuff on Facebook and Twitter, and the page on smarkandmumba.com. And of course, go to fanboysanonymous.com and see what's happening over there for anything that I get an opportunity to do, which I haven't had an opportunity to do anything recently, which I am very disappointed with, but I, of course, always want to do more with that. At the very least, I know that next week is going to be Thor, and I'm going to set aside some time to do a movie review of that. And if you want to follow anything else, it's under A Mango Tree. Just go to A Mango Tree on Facebook and Twitter and follow me at Tony Mango and follow what these guys are up to as well. Rob?
Yeah, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. You can check out Fightful Select. Just continue supporting. Sean's always breaking great news. And if you support me, again, it's at Dude Felice on every social media platform. And I thank you for the support. Callum?
You can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out all the stuff that's going out on the Smark at Moment website. The Power Rankings is my week-to-week contribution. But be sure to be stopping by every other article and update that's going on there as well. And as mentioned before, go to WWEFantasyLeague.com to see the latest standings in the race between us three to finish top of the tree.
And that's going to be doing us in for the Pay-Per-Viewpoint prediction side of Money in the Bank. So you know what to do. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already. And just stay tuned for the next podcast, which is going to be the Hot Tags coming up on Friday afternoon. And then, lo and behold, Saturday, the next day, we got Money in the Bank. So pay-per-view again this weekend. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you enjoy your blood and guts tonight on your plate. No, if you're a Hannibal on AEW. And we'll talk about that and everything else in a few days. But until then, adios, everybody. This is it for this episode. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of the Smark at Moment Smack Talk podcast, and we are being counted out.